The first portion of this video, I'm going to cover basic running mechanics. Things like posture, foot position, arm swing, cadence, and stride. All these factors belong to another category called gait. There's a lot more to gait than just these four components, but for what I've seen with the airmen, these are what they need to focus on the most. So when these basics are learned, the airmen will complete more shuttles and achieve a better score on the hammer. Question out there for everyone. You know, if you have good posture when you sit, how's your posture when you run? If you're not sitting up straight when you're seated, then you may have poor posture. A lack of core and abdominal strength are potentially the culprits. So, do you know how your body is positioned when you walk, when you jog, when you run? How about when you sprint? Is there any pain at any point of your stride? If there is, then you're probably not getting much enjoyment out of running, so you're not going to put that much effort in trying to get better at it. So, good running posture maintains a slight forward lean. While maintaining this forward lean, it helps your foot land underneath you instead of out in front. So the more upright posture you have, the greater chance of a heel strike for that foot to come out more. So it's not that heel striking is bad, it's just not as efficient as a mid-foot landing. So think about it more as a controlled fall. When you run, your foot that impacts the ground should land more neutral and not overly pronate or supinate. So this neutral positioning is to help distribute the force evenly across your shoe when your foot lands and not place as much sharp impact forces on the lower leg. If your running posture is too upright, then your heel may strike and not achieve this neutral foot landing. The more often you heel strike, the more braking forces are placed on your body, and the result is a decreased forward momentum. A slight forward lean to your running posture gives you a better chance that your foot will land directly underneath you. Landing this way will help decrease the impact forces on your body that would otherwise be there with a heel strike. Landing the foot with more pronation or supination may show a lack of ankle and lower leg strength, which could lead to a greater risk of injury. Such injuries may include an ankle sprain or strain if this imbalance isn't caught early on. Some ankle and lower leg strengthening exercises will help decrease the likelihood of twisting an ankle during the run or the hammer. I'll go over those strengthening exercises more in another video. One basic mechanic that would help out everybody is arm swing. Contralateral arm swing will improve your stride and running economy. The better arm swing, the better hip extension you'll have while you're running. I'll put the study link in the description below if you have an interest. In this biology study, they have evidence to support there is more energy cost in less arm swing as opposed to more arm swing. There's a greater locomotive demand on the pelvis, shoulders, and trunk to rotate with restricting arm movement. Basically, with less arm swing, you're causing yourself to run out of gas a lot quicker. You'll have better hip extension and more energy during your run with better arm swing. I'll go over more arm swing in another video on this series. So, arm swing is very important because you don't want to go running around like a T-Rex. Another great study I found was for cadence and stride. An effective cadence and stride can decrease injury and pain. So I'll put the link to this study in the description below as well. And in this research article, the authors showed that an increase of 5% to an individual's normal run cadence has a reduction of impact forces across the entire body and feet, as opposed to a little shorter normal cadence of the runner. Basically, the short choppy steps will increase your run time and the amount of forces that you place on your body. So there's an optimal running cadence and stride length that everyone has. And all you need to do is open up your hips a little bit more. So try to work on a good toe off and more hip extension, and it'll help increase your pace and use less energy. So here's some tips to use on the hammer. Land and take off facing the same way. This method is to provide your body with symmetry and not to create an imbalance from turning around and around. Start out slow and gauge yourself. Don't go hard right out the gate. This is a quick test, so if you expel all your energy, then you won't have anything left, to get those shuttles at the back end. Work on proper mechanics early. If you work on those basics early, then you'll improve your hammer score, no doubt. So don't forget to practice. And unless you're a gifted young athlete, you probably need to practice the hammer a few times. So when I first started doing the hammer myself, I didn't do so well, but after a couple times for practicing and getting everything set up, I'm doing pretty well. So my scores went up just from practicing, and it'll help you too. Biomechanics relating to the hammer. We're going to talk about takeoff, acceleration, movement mechanics, deceleration, the landing, and takeoff. The really nice thing about the 20-meter hammer, it incorporates a warm-up in the first stages of the test. You don't want to go too fast right out of the gate and expel your energy. As the test goes on, the stage beeps come at you faster, so work on your form and strides early. Your forward lean becomes more pronounced, and the more you progress through the stages. You'll need to incorporate good arm swing, your rate of breathing, and increase your stride frequency or stride length to complete the shuttles. So question to y'all. When accelerating, is max velocity ever achieved? Something to think about. As mentioned earlier, good arm swing is a must for force production and to use the body's natural locomotor abilities. The bottom picture is of world-class runners. Notice everyone has similar landing, toe-off, arm movements, and body positioning. These athletes are at the pinnacle of their performance for running economy and force development. They probably all come from different countries and have different run coaches, but as you can see, everyone is running the same way. So, my case in point, there's an optimal running form for everybody. So, a little onto my question earlier, is maximal velocity ever achieved? In the first few stages, you will achieve a steady state velocity and the need for braking is minimal. As time goes on, the faster the beeps, that means you'll have to increase your acceleration to keep up, but it also means you'll have to increase the braking forces to stop on the line. Facing the same way on the landing will balance out your body for an overpronounced use of favoring just one side. So your landing and your setup for takeoff will need to be planned out and practiced. A drop in your center of gravity gives you a better position to push off and is more efficient than an upright posture. So stay low when you set up for a takeoff every single time. So to show some videos, these will be at different angles while I'm performing the hammer.
The 20-meter beep test will start in 5 seconds. Take your start position. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Level 1, 1. Level 1, 2. Level 1, 3. Level 1, 4. Level 1, 5. Level 1, 6. Level 1, 7. Level 2, 1. Level 2, 2. Level 2, 3. Level 2, 4. Level 2, 5.
So, we're going to have to practice. To get the most optimal score, you're going to have to practice the hammer. You're not going to easily pass it unless you're in a higher physical capacity, already been training. The main muscles that are used are the hamstrings, calf muscles, quadriceps, glutes, and abdominals. If you notice, both subjects in the pictures have the same body positioning, raised leg height, and shin angle. There's an optimal positioning you place your body into for maximizing force output. Primary actions used during sprinting is ipsilateral shoulder and hip action, triple extension and flexion, and plantar flexion from toe off. Performing the actual event a lot may not be the best way to get better at it, especially if you're lacking in other areas. For the hammer, you will gradually get into this pronounced sprint form as the beeps get closer together. Though if you don't practice at the end stages, you'll have trouble time later on in your test. Even though we can exercise each muscle individually, we need to work on moving properly throughout a range of motion. That's where dynamic warm-ups and drills come into play. They help develop the body's own awareness and instead of relying on visual or auditory cues. So here's several reasons why the dynamic warm-up is needed. You want the move relating to the event you're about to perform for warming up the body and prepping the tissues for accepting and redirecting force. It is the preferred training method to increase central nervous system engagement and raise your heart rate for increased blood flow. You want to stimulate reflexes in the tendons and muscles, which can also help your body recognize spatial awareness. So in this next video section, I'm demonstrating the dynamic warm-up. You'll need to perform each movement for the right side as well as the left. But to save time, I'm just doing one side to give you a general idea and a sequence of events. I made a spreadsheet for each of the movements that are performed in the videos. So there's a link in the description below if you like it and have one on hand. Arm and wall drills. As previously mentioned on the other hammer videos, I see people needing to incorporate more arm swing and leg mechanics. The next set of videos are a basic progression to incorporate at different points during the hammer. So practice these drills and it will help you with the hammer sprinting applications. So see what I mean? Check out the videos. Also known as an agility ladder, ladder drills are a fun tool that can be used almost anywhere. You must pick up your feet or you'll be straightening up the ladder each time. It makes you think for proper foot placement. I like it. It's out of the ordinary, it keeps you on your toes. So watch the video for a better visual. So wrap this thing up. You should always be warming up before exercising to decrease the likelihood of injury. A dynamic warm-up before your main exercise is the preferred pre-training method. Drills will help you enforce better applications of movement you are trying to accomplish. Some of the main muscles you will be using for the hammer are your hamstrings, calves, quads, glutes, abdominals, and also the joints you'll be using are ankles, knees, hips, and your shoulders. The planes of motion you'll be going through is your frontal, sagittal, and transverse plane. And some of the other movements outside of it you'll be doing is rotational, acceleration, and braking. Everybody has limitations. It doesn't matter on how much of a trained athlete you are or how much of a sedentary individual you've become. Some limitations are great and some are small, but to some degree, everybody has them. So use a movement screen to catch imbalances early. The FMS or functional movement screen is a useful tool and is well known and established for identifying asymmetries. Catching these potential movement disproportions at the start of an airman's training plan can decrease the likelihood of injury later on in their career. Add in accessory work to complement the main workout. Accessory work can aid in strengthening a network of tissues to improve the capacity of forces placed on the body. Microbands are a really great tool to help work these problem areas. End range is not often trained. Most individuals just focus on their main lifts or their arms and never consider other areas that need more attention. Mobility usually falls to the wayside. We fall into this trap of just hitting areas we like and working on steady state cardio. Never think about the joints involved or how to take care of them. Mobility is the new term to replace flexibility. Mobility helps aid joints move actively through a range of motion, whereas flexibility commonly refers to a passive lengthening of tissues through a static range of motion. One way we're going to develop a well-rounded airman is increase their strength and power. Getting airmen stronger will decrease the likelihood of injury. According to OSHA, 33% of all injuries happen on the job are from skeletal muscle cases. So I'll put the website in the link below if you want to find out more. Most of these injuries can be prevented through an encompassing training program and decrease in sedentary behavior. Accessory or prehab. These smaller muscles have a hard time maintaining their function and they're not taken care of regularly. The hips and glutes and knees, shoulders for instance, usually have problems and dysfunction if they're not properly maintained. Performing corrective exercises will help potential problem areas from catastrophic breakdown and reduce injury risk. Help end ranges and mobility of joints. The mobility and end ranges may aid in preventative measures of the airmen for reducing ailments during their time in service. So the movements and drills from the previous presentation, I went over a functional warm-up and drills to improve your HAMR score. Combining these with the weight room training, the development of a well-rounded airman for more resilient to injury can be achieved. So training structure will primarily develop an airman to become more resilient to injury and by making them stronger and faster. Secondary factors the airman will exhibit is increased productivity, decreased illness, boosting endorphins, and lower depressive symptoms, as well as lowered anxiety. For this training plan, I'm making it a 4-day upper-lower split. I'm putting in accessory and mobility work as well. Movement, energy systems you can do before or after training. So I'm making this a 3-week microcycle that can be modified or adjusted as needed. Without the movement screen results, I can only hypothesize what a potential accessory or mobility work would be for someone to individualize their programming. On a training plan, I'm going to incorporate a general options to use. So the movement drills can come on before or after training to give a better adjustment to real-world function. The reason behind this is they will never be in a situation where only one type of movement is performed. So why do we want to structure a physical training that way? A daily undulating periodization training model would be the best for military members because of the diversity in working environments. I put a quality of movements for each week that you can do. You can go and adjust these accordingly for what you have on hand. Maybe a machine or something else is unavailable. You could go choose, a different exercise if you want. But on how I end up having it set, this is an agonist-antagonist movement. So you're not only working one piece, let's say the chest, but directly afterward you're working the back as well and doing an accessory movement to complement that. So the M is made for middle. So if you end up saying mid, right, that's just a normal chest press. If it's an H, it's either a high press or a high row. And if it's an L, that's a low press or a low row. For week 2, I adjusted some things slightly. So you can see them here and kind of go and adjust for yourself on your training plan to meet your needs. Week 3, I adjusted it slightly again, so you can go and modify it for yourself and put some accessory work in that meets your needs. Some variables to think about are multi-joint before single-joint lifts. You can always think of these as compound lifts or big movements. These include your Olympic lifts, your deadlift, your squat, bench, overhead press, your pull-ups, pull-downs, or lunges. You work multiple muscles at one time before isolating individual groups. Tempo and variance. Concentric, eccentric, isometric contractions work muscle fibers differently. Adjusting the tempo will help your body with more training adaptations than just one set pace that never changes. Try rapid concentrics, longer isometrics, and slower eccentric phases for better training progressions. Bilateral and unilateral, or double-sided versus single-sided. A phenomenon called bilateral deficit is where one side of your body is stronger than the other. It shows we have unintentional imbalances where injuries are likely to occur. This would hold true for us favoring one side of our body, being left or right-handed. Over time, we favor one side and neglect the other. A muscular imbalance is sure to show itself at some point. Corrective exercises are sometimes needed as preventative measures, and if imbalances become too pronounced, physical therapy is mandated for recovery. Just a couple more variables. Rest periods between sets. Your training intensity and your goals will greatly depend on the rest you take. If you're looking for higher intensity training, then a shorter time between sets is warranted from a harder effort. Or maximal strength efforts will need a longer rest time between sets to fully recover. And if you want a consistently elevated heart rate throughout your workout, then a consistent rest to work ratio and lower intensity is suggested. RPE, or rate of perceived exertion. A self-check on your perceived exertion or effort for the exercise or movement that you're doing. For example, if you have a heavier weight on the bar, then you'll use a higher RPE because you're placing more effort and force into moving the bar. If you're doing jumping jacks, you can crank out 20 no problem, and it will classify the RPE at a lower scale. So the HAMR training program I made is a 1-week, 4-day training program. It requires movement training or an ab training, as well as a warm-up weight room prep. So there's a link in the description below for a spreadsheet just for you. You can adjust the weights, the tempo, the rest, and the RPE in a note or on the sheet, individualize it as you need.